Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have Reverend Wendell Jones to offer our thanks tonight. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for this wonderful land that we have to live in, for this wonderful community that we're a part of. And we ask Thee that we would be blessed in this school board meeting, that those who are deliberating over the decisions that need to be made for the teachers of this community and for the youth will be made in a way in which we will work to help the young generation learn, be productive. We are grateful for our lives and for thy Son, our Savior. And we say this in His name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I'd like to read the mission of our school district. The mission of Gatesville ISD, a portal to limitless possibilities, is to empower our students to be life-ready knowledge seekers and problem solvers by instilling leadership, innovation, integrity, critical thinking, and service through challenging and engaging learning experiences facilitated by passionate teachers and supported by caring parents and community members. Thank you. Now we have some introductions.
Well, I wanted to first off thank Wendell. Wendell is an important part of our ministerial alliance here in Gatesville. And those pastors do a lot to help us, and so we appreciate you being here tonight, Wendell, getting us kicked off. Before we start with our recognitions, there are a few folks in the crowd that we've asked to be here to kind of recognize, and we've hired some new coaches. And so I've got a brief little synopsis on each one that I wanted to read, and also let you guys get a name with a face. You know, we've talked about these guys, but some of them you already know. Jacob Punter, 2010 graduate of Gatesville. He went on to play football for the nationally ranked Crusaders at UMHB. He graduated from UMHB in 2013 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice. Following graduation, Jacob accepted a position here at Gatesville as a teacher to coach, where he stayed for 2 years. And then in 2015, he assumed the position as head offensive line coach for the Tigers at Belton High School, where he remained for 5 years. During those years, Jacob received the titles of strength and conditioning coordinator and assistant head football coach. He's been, I like this, happily married to Kelsey. Very smart, that's a good move. For 5 years, and the couple's expecting their first child in June. So congratulations. And Kelsey's here too. Where's Kelsey? There's Kelsey. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
I'll skip on over. We'll do brother next. Aaron. Aaron's a graduate also of Gatesville High School, class of 07. He went on to graduate from the UMHB in 2011 with a bachelor's degree in exercise sports science. After completing his undergrad, he took a graduate assistant position at Hardin-Simmons, where he coached defensive backs while acquiring a master's degree in counseling and human development. He spent the last 3 years at Belton High, where he was the special teams coordinator and coached safeties. His other coaching experience includes New Caney High School in the greater Houston area, where he was the special teams coordinator and coached secondary. And I think New Caney was a turnaround spot too, where they were, what was their record when you got there?
Really bad. They never won a playoff game, just championship. And
Yep.
And all that, but last year we won a playoff game, so it's awesome.
That's good. That's good. And he is married to his, I like this, lovely wife. Honestly, very good. They have a 3-year-old daughter named Navy and a 7-month-old son named Briggs. So where are they at? Are they hiding? Where are
Well,
we?
Navy's with my in-laws.
Okay.
My wife's over there, Roxy.
There's Roxy.
She's with my in-laws, which I thought this is my son Briggs back here in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. And Hunter, patriarch and matriarch. Thank you guys for being here. Then we have Logan Brock, who grew up in Coppers Cove, Texas, and graduated from Cove High in 07. After high school, Logan attended TCU, where he was a 3-year starter for the Horned Frogs football program, and graduated from the Neely School of Business with a degree in entrepreneurial management in 2012. Now, you guys made it to a bowl game, didn't you?
7 times, yes, sir.
What was the big one? You went to the big one, didn't you?
Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl. So, following college, Logan played briefly in the NFL for the Houston Texans and Carolina Panthers. He was too small. No, I'm kidding. He's in his 4th year of coaching. He began his career in the state of Florida, but most recently served under Rusty Nail in Madisonville for 2 years. He is married to Emily, and together they have 4 kids, Michaela, Harper, Bo, and Zoe, and they're excited about the opportunity to be part of the Hornet athletic program in the Gatesville community. So Logan, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right next door to his hometown. And then Mark Mullins, last but not least, Mark. He's come to Gatesville from Round Rock Cedar Ridge High School. This is his 21st year of coaching and teaching, with his career beginning in Irving ISD. He had stints at Arlington High, Brewer High School in Fort Worth, Round Rock, Stony Point, and Cedar Ridge. He's a graduate of Rio Vista ISD, where his father was superintendent. He attended Texas A&M, we won't hold that against him, on a track and field scholarship for pole vaulting. Now, what was your claim to fame there, Mark? You're a pretty high pole vaulter, aren't you?
It was okay. 18-2.
Okay, pretty impressive.
We got some good ones here, too.
Yeah, and he is married to his beautiful wife, Jennifer, who's going to be coming to us also to teach. For almost 20 years, she's currently a teacher in Pflugerville as an interventionist, and they have 2 wonderful children, Luke, who's here, and Avery, who's coming. Luke's a junior at Gatesville, and Avery's a sophomore at Cedar Ridge. So thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it. All right. So that is our 4 new football coaches. So
Which ones are on board and which ones are coming? Or is everybody here
This
on
is
board
here.
now?
Yeah.
Y'all are all
Well, no,
you're here.
the Hunters are still in Belton right now. So, but the other 2 are here.
Well, welcome to Gatesville, and we look forward to having y'all.
Good to have you.
Luke's assembled a great team, so we're excited for him. Well, we have some more recognitions. Student spotlight. Marianne, are you okay if we just keep on going down the... All right. Well, Yancey has a daughter who's having a birthday at Texas Roadhouse, so you can't miss that. So Marie Barrows is here. Marie, you would come on up.
Hey, the high school wants to recognize Brian Perez Gonzalez. He can go ahead and come up here and stand. That's fine. Yeah, go ahead. I want to bring 2 points and talk to you about Brian. So he has an awesome academic achievement record. He loves to learn. He's done very well with his academics, and he's also done very well with his state exams. The last one he took, he actually exceeded standard and was in the highest performing category that they offer or have established. The second part I want to talk to you about is learning has not always come easily to Brian. It is something that he's had some obstacles and challenges with, and he wanted me to bring it up tonight and tell you when he was in elementary school, he was actually told that he had a hearing impairment and that I was going to impede on his learning. And Brian had some decisions to make. He rolled up his sleeves, pulled himself up by the bootstraps, and he decided that he was going to do the hard work, and here we are today. His character is outstanding. His teachers will tell you, oh, he is so respectful, he's so kind with his peers, but I'm here to tell you that his perseverance, his self-discipline, and his determination is outstanding. So we want to recognize Brian for both academic achievement and character. So, congratulations.
Mom, Dad, I know you guys are proud of him. Brian, you want to take a picture with us? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Here you go.
I was going to tell him to stand behind,
Elaine.
so we can layer it because it's like kind of
You ready?
always.
That's a good answer. I like that.
What about the rest of us?
He's just harassing me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
Congratulations. Good job.
Good job.
Yeah.
A lot of that comes from home.
Well, we'll keep on going. Teacher spotlight. I believe Ms. Register is here to honor a teacher.
All right, well, I'm here tonight to honor an intermediate teacher for our spotlight. I have with me Miss Jennifer Campbell. She has gone to Texas Women's University as far as schooling, and she also worked in the medical field in medical centers prior to coming into education. She began her career in education in '99 in Irving, and she had taught 7th grade science and high school environmental science in North Hills Charter for 7 years before becoming a 5th grade teacher at Hurst Euless Bedford, and she was there for 10 years. She was also, and she didn't tell me this, but her husband did, she was a 3-time Teacher of the Year between those 2 campuses. And so we're really thrilled to have her. She has been in the Gatesville schools for 3 years now, and she's taught STEM and currently STEAM for our 6th graders. And she is kind of a unique person in that she kind of gets to create her own curriculum and work with things that the kids really enjoy, and work at, focus on some of those areas that not all kids get to do. So these, the STEAM kind of stands for science, technology, and going into more of the arts and mathematics. So she really is able to. She doesn't just do STEAM and work with all of our kids, because she does hit all 3 of our grade levels, but she also mentors teachers. She is able to create schedules and she works very well with not just our kids but our teachers as well, and she oversees our UIL program. So for us it's kind of unique because we work with the elementary and we also work with the junior high because of the division of our campus. She does have a husband, Scott, who is a PE teacher with us and also a soccer coach here at Gatesville. So we are doubly blessed to have both of them here. They have 2 daughters, Kate and Mackenzie. And the thing that she said that she enjoys most about her job, it says that she has, freedom to bring in new ideas and to really work with the kids, whenever they have something that they're desiring to try and attempt, she's able to kind of go the directions that they want. And she's hoping that she directs some of our kids to different career paths. And gears them into those areas, and so that they can actually apply those things to their lives. I talked to some of the kiddos, 6th graders, and they enjoy it because her class is not just to sit and get, but that she actually lets them work in groups, work with teams, and also they like that they never do the same thing. And so a lot of them said it really brings out their creativity. So she's nice, she has patience, and she allows us to work as a team. We have freedom, but we are always challenged. And so she does not enjoy the limelight, but I really am glad that I got to honor her tonight. So,
Speech.
Yes.
Speech.
So this is Miss Jennifer Campbell.
Jennifer, you're definitely the better half of the duo. No, I see some. Will you take a picture with us? Congratulations. Well deserved.
Thank you.
Aren't you supposed to be here? I stood by you. Stand by me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to put here Linda tonight.
King, their head coach retired. Reed, 1 or 2 other coaches. They seem to think they inherited a pretty good program.
All right, well, last but not least of our recognitions, we wanted to spotlight a community partner. And so tonight we wanted to honor Bruce Thomas and his urban air there in Killeen. Bruce has done a lot over the years, but I tried to think of just a few things even here recently. This time last year, we were struggling to find a venue for project graduation lock-in. It was so bad to the point to where that group of parents that kind of coordinated that said, well, we may just not have one. And Bruce, like in typical fashion, kind of swooped in and saved the day and helped us and offered up his urban air, and the kids really liked it. They really enjoyed it. And he does things like he'll donate passes to urban air as a door prize. And recently he gave a donation to the Gold Club. And you know, he served on numerous committees. And anytime you need somebody to help out, if you call Bruce, he'll help you. And so Bruce, you've been a big part of the community and a big asset to the district, and we're sure glad you're here. Hope you.
Thank you. Education.
Oh yeah, Education Foundation. So if you name it, he's probably served in some capacity on it. So Bruce,
That's quite the school board.
yeah, that's right. Bruce, we should appreciate you and everything you've done. So you want to get a photo off?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, she has them? Yeah. I'll miss it.
Where do you want to be?
It doesn't matter. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, always last, but not least. Were you ready, Cheyenne?
I
As always.
was. Eyes are dry, but
I'm
I'm
not sure which eye
Thank
he
you
looks
for
at.
everything. Thanks.
Bruce, thank you. You bet. You bet. Yeah. There you go. Well,
Don't
yeah.
drop that on your toe.
That's right. That's right.
That's why he gives me a hard time, because he caught me in the middle of a blink one time. He didn't warn us.
We're now with our public comments section. Is there anyone who'd like to say anything at this point? All right, we'll move on to Mr. Webb and the hearing on the 18-19 Texas Academic Performance Report or paper.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? Well,
Great.
I'll try to go through this quickly. If you have any questions, just please stop me and ask me if you have any. But every year, Gatesville ISD holds a public meeting about this time of year to discuss the district's latest Texas Academic Performance Report, other known as the TAPER report, that provides information on student performance as well as extensive information on district staff, programs, and student demographics. And so we'll kind of go through this. I'll go through this quickly and just kind of go over some of our highlights that we've accomplished this school year and some areas that we're still working. You can probably go down. This right here just tells you how to access it. This just gives you some information, and then we'll get to the first part of the graphs. So when you look at it, it breaks it down all the STAR scores from all subjects, and it's comparing you to state, region, and district. And it'll break it down by math, reading, science, social studies, and all your categories. And you can kind of see there the state and region district there. We're kind of lagging behind when it comes to our overall STAR scores in most subjects. But we'll see some better reports when we get down to the academic growth. And this is math right here. Writing, most of them we're a few points behind. Writing's another one. But then when it gets to science, we're doing really well. We're outperforming the state and region when it comes to science. That's fifth grade, 8th grade, and biology. Social studies. And then when you get to academic growth, we're doing a little bit better. So what academic growth is it takes, let's say for instance, you take a 3rd grade math STAR test, and then it's calculating your growth from 3rd grade to 4th grade. So did that kid show growth from 3rd grade to 4th grade, and did they make improvement? And so you can kind of see some of our charts there where this is 6th grade math, where we did well. Actually, this is reading and math, 6th grade, where when you look at growth, we're outperforming the growth in the state and region. Some of the areas we're still underneath a little bit, but these do look better and are promising. Just this is Algebra 1, Algebra 1 and English 2. So that goes from your 8th grade year to your Algebra 1 test, or from your English 1 test to your English 2. So it just it shows growth over a year. So it goes from one grade level to the next. Things such as attendance. It will give you attendance reports. You can kind of see where our district's attendance sets up between the state and the region, and you see there's some sub-pops that hurt us a little bit when it comes to that. Those are areas that all the campuses are working on and trying to improve and have some really neat ideas going and trying to get those things up. But
on the
sorry.
deal areas, you have 2019, but underneath it it's 17, 18?
Yes, when some of the reports go back 2 years. They don't go to the year before. So our test scores go back to last school year, but things like dropout rate, attendance, they go back. They're lagging. So this would have been 2 years ago. Some of this data that we have, and so we'll see last year's rate on next year's taper report. This is dropout rate. So the first column is state, region, and district, and then it breaks it down by different sub-pops. And again, this is another lagging indicator right here. This is 2 years ago as well. Okay, and it gets to college-ready graduates. So the class of 2018, when you look at the state and the region, and you can kind of see how we're doing, we're at 83% college readiness, as opposed to the state is at 50%, and the region is even lower than that. That's kids that have passed their TSI, who have taken a TSI insurance class, a prep class. Let's see, AP classes, dual credit, all those things kind of go into ready graduate. And you can see where we're sitting at about 83%. This one right here, the next one, and this is from 2018 as well, is college, career, and military readiness. You can kind of see where the state and region sit and where we sit. And so this takes into a few more things, coherent sequence, industry certifications, those things like that. And that's where your CT programs fall in this area right here.
Do we offer a lot more things? I mean, to me, we're equal to or a little bit less all the way down till we get to these two, and then we're way above. Is it because we offer more CTE programs, or what drives that?
This right here, what is driving this more is we are testing all of our students for TSI. TSI is the college entrance exam that you have to pass in order to get into college, to go to a 4-year university or even a junior college and take your math class without having to take a remediation class. And so we have taken those remediation classes down into high school, and so we have a lot more kids that are getting those basics. It's not necessarily dual credit, but they've received the remediation before they're going to college, and some of these other schools aren't doing those things yet, and so they haven't gotten there. So that's where a lot of ours is really falling into place, because what we do is we test all juniors TSI by the end of their junior year. If they don't meet performance on the TSI, then they go into what we call a TSI prep class, and that becomes their 4th English or their 4th math class if there's one of those that they haven't passed. And so they're taking that prep class in order to retake the TSI again as a senior to be prepared and to going into college. And so some of these schools haven't gotten there yet, or they may not be offering classes like that. It just encompasses a lot of different things. So your TSI, taking the actual TSI test, taking the TSI prep class, your industry certifications, your coherent sequence, AP classes, dual credit classes. It encompasses a lot of different things.
We have several dual credit classes.
We do have several dual credit offerings, yes ma'am.
But
in order to take the dual credit offerings, you have to pass the TSI test in order to be able to take the dual credit offerings.
How hard would it be to get the last 2 years compared? So, I mean, we're comparing ourselves to the region, the state. How can we compare ourselves to what we did last year, short of going back through the board minutes and printing it up? I mean, that concerns me more than how we're competing against the state, is how are our kids doing from last year? Are we progressing, or are we staying the same, or losing ground, or?
I would say, you know, we've reported just our kids that have been in CTE classes is about what we had reported last year. About, you know, we've got about 90-something% of our kids that are enrolled in career tech programs. I'm not sure how we can figure out last year's, but we can find that out.
We had this report last year, or is this a new test?
No, we would have had this report last year. What I do is I build this off of a template from Region 13 sends out a template on how to give this report. And so I could go back and look at where we were last year to compare it to this year. So this is 2018 graduates, so I can go back and pull 2017
right,
graduates.
but I mean on all of them, like our 2019 academic growth, English and algebra, you know, all this stuff up through all of it. So we can compare 2019 to 2018 at this time. Mm-hmm. That's what I would like to. That to me is a whole lot more concerning than how we're doing against everybody in the state.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I know that's important, but
yeah. Just you want to look at compared from year to year on just our kids,
right,
where we are.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So how are we doing?
Okay. We can do that.
Compared to how we did last year.
Compliance piece of this report to compare it to the region in the state. That's part of something the state tells us we have to do at this point.
I understand
but you would like to see how we are getting better
from year to year overall, just from our kids. Another part of the piece of the report is SAT scores. So you can kind of look to see how we're performing compared to, and now again, this is another lagging report. This goes all the way back to the class of 2017. And so you can kind of see there where we're outperforming the state when it comes to SAT. ACT, the same thing. I think the state was 20.6 in Gatesville ISD, which where most of our kids take the ACT is a 20.8 of the overall score. Things are such as ethnic distribution, kind of gives you a breakdown of the district on the left-hand side there, and on the state on the right-hand side on the ethnic distribution. Now this is a 2019 data point right here. Again, it kind of gives you there just demographics, percentage of our kids compared to the district and the state between economically disadvantaged English language learners, disciplinary placements, and again, that's another lagging report, disciplinary placements right there, and our at-risk youth as well. Teacher ethnic distribution is another piece of the report. So you can kind of see how we fall there. And then this is teachers' years of experience. I thought this one was interesting. What do you notice about that report? It's the exact, it's almost identical. I think the biggest gap is 1.3% on the 20 years, but right now our teachers' years of experience is mirroring the state averages right now. Enrollment by program, your bilingual and ESL, career and tech, gifted and talented, and your special education, compared district and state. Let's see. And then this next piece is it tracks your graduates from fiscal year 2017 that enrolled in college in 2018. Kind of looks at there, you have your 4-year public university. We had 30 students that enrolled into a 4-year graduate, to a 4-year school after they graduated high school. And it tells you kind of how they performed by their GPA. So you had 3 of them that were less than 2.0, and then from 2.0 to 2.49, and so on. And then it looks at your 2-year public colleges. And we had 57 in there. It kind of tracks how they did GPA-wise. And then independent colleges and universities, and then kids that are not trackable or not found. They may not have enrolled anywhere. We're just not able to find those, for a total of 173. And that's really all the report. But it's just this is a compliance report that that we have to give every year. And Mr. Irwin, we'll take a look at those things that you're asking about.
Can we look at it next one? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Does anybody else have any other questions?
going on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions about the consent agenda? Anybody?
I have a couple of questions on you have to checking up for transportation software. What are we doing in the transportation business?
Transportation software,
Yes, almost $6,000. I'm just curious as to, is it a
would that be like
tracking type
Transponder.
software?
Sorry, probably annual subscription to Transfinder. So that's the software that the buses use to map out the routes and all that.
Oh,
Develops all the
nothing
routes.
new. That's a
We've had that for what?
okay.
5 years or so. We use that in Belton too. That's kind of the, I think what's what most districts use is Transfinder.
It helps map out your routes, and if you have
Be efficient.
a sub, it gives the addresses on how to get to the, where to go. all its
I just never had
different
seen it
stops.
before. I missed it last year. I guess.
To
Yeah.
know where you're
Yeah.
going on the route.
Instead of having to rely on a kid.
Yeah.
When we purchased those 2 buses, I think we were supposed to get delivery in February. Is that what have we heard anything on that?
We got 1 bus in.
Good.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Charlie, second. David, any more questions?
I'll go ahead and vote now.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Information items, the high school renovation construction update. Mr. Zonic,
We've got Eddie here tonight.
welcome.
We've had a lot of work going on around the high school. If y'all driven by, you've seen all the portables are in except the bathrooms. They're working on the underpinning right now. They've bladed the asphalt parking lot around the technology building. They've been laying fiber optics around the high school. They've been working on different things. So it's a lot of movement, a lot of going on. So we wanted to ask Eddie here tonight to be able to give us an update on just how things are progressing and maybe have some pictures or whatnot. So
There's a few, not as much going on.
Yeah.
I'll let you, if you mind, man, you
Not
just
a
flip to
problem.
the next one and,
Just like everything else.
oh, back up there, the bottom, the right-hand corner, there's a little enlarge. And there. If you can just go to the next slide, it'll kind of help paint a more clear picture. So, I kind of color-coded this just for clarity. I'm sure, the board, you guys are aware of what we're doing, generally speaking. This is a very complex project. There's a whole lot of moving parts. It's even, I think it grows by the day as far as the moving parts go. But we're kind of getting a handle on it, and it works to our advantage that our primary focus right now is to get the admin area renovated right now. That's kind of the purple, pink, whatever you want to call it there, what we're calling Unit B. As of right now, we're in our 7th week. We're complete with 90% of the demolition work in that piece of the project. We're hanging ductwork. The electricians are working on a conduit rough-in. The metal framing contractor is mobilized on actually today, and so we'll start seeing walls getting framed up later this week. We're going to let a lot more natural light into that portion of the building. We've cut out for several new windows. I think there's about 8 or 9 new windows going in there. So those are currently just boarded up for security purposes, but sooner than later we'll have the aluminum frames in place and the glass to follow shortly thereafter. The other areas we're working into are not officially tied to the building itself. You can see kind of where the pictures are. In the upper right hand corner, Barry, if you can click on the next slide, we've got, that's kind of just the state. We just started, we tore out the old parking lot. I better talk fast, right? So that's about what it looks like right now. The site contractors have basically just gotten to the point where they've removed all the old asphalt, kind of established the corners of the new parking lot, and so we're hoping to kind of keep that process rolling if we can avoid some of these rain showers this week, or at least not get a deluge like we did last week. It shouldn't affect us too much, and those guys will keep moving forward. Our goal between the spring and throughout the summer is to try to get as much of the new paving in place as we possibly can. At some point it's going to be impractical because we're going to be working up towards the existing school that's going to have to get demolished, but we're going to work on that parking lot, kind of get the new fire drive around to the other side, and that should all take shape sometime between now and hopefully by the time school lets out in May. And in addition to that area, we've got our utility contractor that's working, go to the, well, without the visuals, anybody that's driven down Lover's Lane today and towards the end of last week has seen that we've got, I guess, there's a myriad of utility folks working. Some are city folks, and some of them are our utility contractor working on extending the water line down Lover's Lane and then down Marshall to serve the new high school addition. So that work is well underway and should be wrapped up probably within the next 2 weeks. We'll at least have the new water line in place all the way up to down Marshall and onto the school property officially there. So we should be, not impacting the district as nearly as much within the next couple of weeks on that part of the project.
That's not going to help in our water supply situation.
No, sir. This is just part of our project. This is how we're going to bring water to serve the new addition. And then in addition to that, we've also got the new providing electrical service for the portables. Well, there's a good picture of the inside. So that's what that was taken as of today, actually. So it doesn't look very much like a library anymore. So, which is good. That's kind of the goal. So we've had to reroute some roof drains. That's kind of what you see, the white pipes, the two big pipes that are kind of running out that direction. We've got new ductwork is already being installed. You can see as in some of those photos, some of it's standing there waiting to be installed. And probably within another week or two, you'll see a whole bunch of metal studs up there too. So it'll really start looking and feeling like an office space very shortly here.
Maybe a month from now, would it be okay to have a tour of the building, or do you think it would be?
Well, I think that space especially will certainly be a lot more to see. Absolutely.
So maybe at 5:30 in March, so y'all can go and look at it.
I'd say overall in this area we're about 25% complete with that admin renovation space, and that's another photo of some guys getting ready, kind of potholing, identifying where we're going to tie onto the new water line, and so they're getting ready to start running down Lovers and then hang a left on Marshall and get out of everybody's way as much as possible. And then in addition to that, we've also got the electricians. Obviously a big component to getting everybody out of the school into the portables is that they need to be powered. So clearly we're working on getting temporary electric panels set in place for that and get kind of all the infrastructure intact, some of which is technology related as well. Which one thing I don't really have a slide for, something that we're going to talk about a lot tomorrow with Shelley is basically the MDF room, the brain for the entire high school is in a part of the high school that gets demolished. So big push on our part as well with the district is that we've got to move all of the technology components from that MDF room into part of the existing high school that's going to remain and not get torn down. And we've got to accomplish that all before spring break so that Shelley's staff has time to get everything set up, programmed, and have the kids operational from a technology standpoint in the portable buildings and in the portions of the building that are going to remain. So we've got our work cut out for ourselves to make that happen here in the next 3 or 4 weeks, but we've got everything, all the materials have been ordered, and our technology contractors kind of just waiting for, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow, and we're going to kind of identify all the ins and outs of how we're going to get from point A to point B, and they'll get started probably next Monday with that piece, and get it all done in advance of kids moving into portables in March.
So that big migration is set right before spring break, and so Toby and his guys helped out a lot of junior high teachers today. The ones that were in the old portables next to the junior high came inside the building, and so that was a big project for all that stuff to come in the building. So those portables will be ready for high school kids to use. And then also Shelley's crew is getting ready to go over, on Main Street, Karen Bayer's old art building that used to be there. That's turning into Shelley and Dustin and all their new offices. And so there's a lot of little side projects going along at the same time. It's, there's a lot of moving parts. But it's so far progressing on schedule like we were intending it to. But the next big push will be the migration of all the high school teachers out of that old area that's going to get demolished into the portable city. And so that'll be a big, a lot of physical movement of just stuff. And what can't fit in their new portable classrooms needs to either go home, get tossed, or we've got some storage space underneath the gym, but it's gonna be an opportunity for, you know, some clean out too at the same time.
Don't put it in Andy's place.
Yeah, Hillside really has come in handy. We're in no rush to really get rid of that right now, just from a storage standpoint. Because if we didn't have the Hillside, we'd have to purchase Connex containers, and those aren't great. So it actually, despite all of its disadvantages, it's coming in handy for this project. So.
Yep, and we're looking forward to getting, you know, when the kids get out too, then it kind of triggers the abatement process, which is kind of the first step in ultimately leading up to tearing down part of the high school. So, you know, if we stay the course, and right now, you know, we're fortunate enough the weather hasn't been much of a factor, and we can only hope that it continues to be that way. The good news is that the admin renovation piece kind of runs independent of the weather being already under roof. So that's a helpful aspect of the project right now. And you know, once we get we stay the course, we should start seeing buildings coming down towards the end of May.
Have you got it figured out yet how to do away with this pump system? Why not?
Because it's not possible with the
It's
city
gotta
of
be
Gatesville,
possible.
not with the city of Gatesville's water pressure.
Build a water tower on the practice field.
I am so dead set against this pump. That's ain't nothing but a maintenance issue. There's gotta be a way around it.
There's not.
Even, David, even your places, I'm not sure about the hospital here, but even places that have adequate water supply to run a fire suppression system, a lot of them have pumps. A lot of hospitals and big buildings, they have pumps.
Okay.
My next question, do we have a generator to run the pump when electricity goes off? That's one of the first things that happens when a building catches on fire is electricity goes off.
Bring up a good point.
So Eddie, you're contracted with Dickerson Fire, and that's what they do, right?
Yeah.
That's their specialty. So
Correct.
I guess we could ask them about if there was a fire, a generator, backup generator is what you need.
Well, I'm not advocating for one, I'm just saying that without electricity, the pump.
You just did.
Yeah. Well, we can ask the question and see what they.
I mean, yeah,
I wondered
they've
about
got
that myself. What runs a pump when I'm assuming that it's wired in different. You know, in case of a fire, that it is wired in totally separate, but I don't see nothing but a maintenance issue here.
You'll have electricity probably to it all the time, and then when the water pressure drops, as the sprinkler system activates, it'll trip the pump on.
Other places may
I
have
would
one.
say, would other buildings have that same situation, you're saying?
Well, a lot of
The
commercial,
pump
big
and
commercial
generator.
building. I know a hospital at Dornell did, and it, you know, it tested itself twice a month. It automatically came on and ran for so long, every Friday, every other week. But I don't ever remember it being down, but this, I wouldn't have necessarily known about it, but I feel like something, you know, we would have been advised of it.
Just to keep the board in the loop, the big thing right now from the, as far as the city and the school district working together is water pipes under the street. So a lot of the pipes are in the city streets are very, very old. And so they had at one point, you know, offered or suggested that we might bump in the schedule of replacements under the streets, that we might have some precedence with getting Lovers, Marshall, and Hornet Way done quicker with this project going underway. The guys in the, you know, ditches seem to think it'd be good to go ahead and knock it out while we're doing the construction, but you know, it'll just be up to the city council. The city council may say, yes, we think it's a good idea, or they may say, no, let's keep on the schedule. I'm somewhat indifferent in the sense that whatever streets pipes get fixed, it's gonna help the school. Because if there's a constant leak on Osage and they get all that fixed, well, that's one less time that we have to cut the water off at the school and do all the boil order and all that sort of stuff. And so we're kind of in a win-win on getting these streets fixed because they all need to be fixed. The more pressing thing for me is getting a fourth fire hydrant in the fourth corner of the big high school compound. So we have one in one corner, one in the other corner, One's being made in the third
I'm
corner.
going to go back to that overall site plan. We can kind of point that out too.
Are there any standpipes in the hospital? Any, no, I'm not talking about like the other thing, but like a box with fire hose in it, a valve, or is it all?
They don't do that anymore, where you would put a fire hose in there. You'd have a standpipe, yeah, that's going
With
to
a valve on it? So-
Yeah, but the fire department would be bringing that, would bring in the hose or whatever connection that they would need. Yeah, like in a typical, in a multi-story
So
building, a lot of
on
times.
a normal
you see-
situation, you're not gonna hook up to a plug on the outside perimeter of the building?
Well-
Except for the one when you're pumping into the.
That,
to the
I'm sorry.
standpipe.
In your example of a multi-story building, yes. In this situation of a single-story structure, they're gonna be tying onto a fire hose within so many feet. That's why they have to be within so many 100 or 200 feet of a building or something, of whatever the building that they're serving. And then they're gonna have hose, so they're gonna, I mean, they would absolutely hook onto a fire hydrant here in the event of a fire.
Right, but it's not, you're not gonna have a connection at each corner, you're gonna have one single connection, or are they gonna be?
And that's the concern that what Barrett's bringing up here is that there's only,
So we've got one here, right? Toby, help me with my math.
I'm not sure where the yeah, I think there's one at the corner, right,
Right here?
Marshall and Lovers.
Yeah, there's one right there.
And then there's one over here, right?
No, it's
No,
it's
that's
further
further
down.
Sorry.
And that's the one we're putting in. It doesn't exist currently.
Right, yeah.
The one the fourth corner that we still need is up here, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So the question was, there was some fear by the city that TxDOT wouldn't let us run a pipe bore under Main Street. But I talked with TxDOT and they said, no, we're not totally against that because a hydrant of that nature is not something that we think that's worthwhile of doing. So I talked to Stephen Kasberg with TxDOT. Now there's still some hoops we have to go through as far as petitioning for it, but they're not totally against boring underneath it. Now it'll be up to the city to determine what's the best way of doing it. Is boring under Main Street the easiest thing for them to do to get one here? Or is it a situation where we go up that drainage ditch between the high school and the boutique and go up that direction, I guess, would be the other way. So, again, to me, the streets and the order in which they get replaced from cast iron to PVC maybe isn't quite as crucial as, to me, the fourth fire hydrant. Just as a layperson, big building, big fire, you need a hydrant here, 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 and here, I would think, just as a, not an expert, but I would think you would need that. So anyway, it's just something that we've happened upon that we think would increase the safety. It's been like that for 50 years, not necessarily right or wrong, but it's something we probably need to rectify now.
Well, and we're gonna be closing off the ability for a fire truck to come off of 84
Right.
and basically come around the school, or to serve that end of the school otherwise. So I mean, like access is only, I mean, you have the fire loop to get, for a truck to get around, but again, there's just a physical possibility of tying onto a fire hydrant a literal city block away and serving that portion of the building that's, called out as Unit A right on the plan there.
So anyway, I hope the council will be receptive to that idea of helping us get a hydrant there, because I don't see how it would hurt. How can it hurt to get it? So.
Did you say a fire truck will not be able to come off of Main around the back way?
There's not a hydrant over there for it to tie
I
onto.
know that.
There's no
Right
reason
now
really
that's
to
what
come
I'm
over
talking
there.
about. But I thought you said that you couldn't bring a fire truck around.
Well, you're closing off the way that they would get around there currently. You're gonna have, we're building a fire loop that's gonna take you
Yes,
around.
okay.
We're building a loop around.
That's when we extended
technology.
that so they could.
The concrete that was.
Just making sure what you said.
Yeah, but I mean, that doesn't have any bearing on your ability to fight a fire at the other end where there is no fire hydrant.
Toby, do we have a pump at the new elementary?
We do not.
Is there better water pressure over there? Or?
I'm not sure if it's better over there. I think the actual square footage may be a little different on that building when it's all said and done. When I, quit everybody, I think you could make it possibly work with that water pressure, Eddie, but you'd have to increase the number of heads to the point where it's just not economically feasible to do.
You couldn't serve, you would still gonna end up with a domestic water pump. You can't get away from both pumps. Under no circumstance can you get rid of both pumps. That you could do, we could do that for the fire protection system, but then you'd be lacking on the domestic water side.
So, I mean, it's, I guess it's just better water on that side of Main Street is my guess.
That's possible because of the way the city's set up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you open up a fire hydrant or two, are you gonna have enough water to service?
No, that's what I was fixing to say. If you utilize one
Fire
hydrant and they're all on the same loop, the rest of them are dead anyway.
Yep.
No more,
that's
no
exactly
more
right.
volume than we have.
I mean, yeah, the civil engineers even pointed out that the one hydrant we're putting in is actually not going to have the correct, the flow rate that it should have if you had.
Right, it's just
we had better
availability,
water.
it's increasing availability, but
Correct.
you're only gonna use one anyway,
Right.
chances are. Unless you have.
Like, that was
different
their
supply
point
coming
was
in.
that we couldn't justify, or there's not enough pressure to support another hydrant off of the same water line that we're supporting everything else off of right now. So we couldn't even you couldn't put another hydrant in place unless it comes from a completely different water line served from a completely different part of town.
But we will have enough water volume to supply the pump, correct?
Yes.
Because you gotta have enough, you can't
That's
run
right.
a pump on air.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not
Okay.
like a garden hose to start, but I mean, it's relative to the amount of pressure you have to have.
Okay.
It becomes that pretty quickly. It's a circumstance we've never encountered either. I mean, you know, we've sat in several meetings with myself and, you know, Joe Stone, our superintendent. He's been doing this a lot longer than I have, and he's, you know, telling us that he's never worked in a municipality that's had this kind of issue with water pressure.
Is our city hard to work with?
It's not the city. It's just the reality of the lack of water pressure throughout, you know, the majority of the town.
I think are, you know, cognizant of the problem. They know it. I mean, they're trying now to rectify. You know, it's one thing that I keep trying to stress. It's nobody's fault. It's 70 years in the making.
70 years of fault.
70 years in the making. I mean, there are pipes that are 70 years old that need to be replaced, and so now it's just a matter of they've got to hopefully in that plan start attacking pieces of it piece by piece, start replacing it, and doing other things to the infrastructure just to help. So.
Well, there's demands that weren't there
Blow out
30
all
years
the
ago.
pipes.
Yeah.
That old pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would go a long way as well. But I mean, you don't have, I mean, for somebody building a brand new house, like, you don't need a fire suppression system in your home. So the demand is not there on, you know, I don't know, most of the buildings in town. So, you know, now that ever since it's been mandated you have a fire suppression system, especially in commercial buildings like this, you know, that really takes on a whole, or adds a different variable to the water pressure situation.
And the work we're doing now is going to tie into the long range plan. So we're getting rid of the cast iron. They'll be able to run up to what we're putting in now, and then it's all going to match. It'll have, you know, the 10 inch is going to match the 10 inch, and the 6 is going to match the 6. And they put in valves in place so that it can isolate those areas, and then they're going to work up to the work we're doing now. Instead of us creating our whole new, this is ours, we're going to put it all on our property, and that's going to fall in line the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that was great. Yes, Scott, that was a huge help last week too with our utility contractor in the city of Gatesville. That was a huge development because I don't think beforehand we were actually to that point where they were willing to do that, because that's why the whole project was designed. We were going to end up with our own water line that lived right in the city-owned street. So now it will operate and be maintained by the city.
Right. And
as
the
it
city
should.
provided the valves for it from their yard, and they cut in, helped us cut in, helped the contractor cut it in, and so they spent their day out there with us to make it happen, and they're chipping in that part so that it does match. So we had to upsize, but then they took care of that.
They paid the difference to go from the 6 inch to the 10 inch.
Right.
And so basically the harrowing thing for just the average parent or student is that for about the next 2 weeks, as they try to navigate down levers, that water pipe is going to be going up levers, turning left onto Marshall, and then turning again by the field house. And so, and we've asked that during arrival and dismissal that they plate the trench so people can use both lanes. But during non-peak hours, they're going to be working. And so it's going to basically be down to one lane.
You going down the middle of the street, or which side of the street are they going?
Probably closest to the...
It's on the west side.
Yeah.
So it's on the west side of levers.
But hopefully, within 2 weeks, they made it down levers, turned there on Marshall, and turned again up by the field house. So that's really the next big nuisance for parents and kids getting here and getting out of here every day. So.
But that's the only utility work we've got to do that actually takes us officially off of our work area. So bear with us for a couple of weeks, and we'll be back in our little backside of the high school, hopefully a little out of sight and somewhat out of mind.
Yeah. One good thing about the project is we're working on the infrastructures. We got the water, the electrical, the fiber, so all those things that have been neglected, you know, for decades. At least here at the school compound, it's being fixed, being renovated. It's going to be up to date. So we hopefully won't encounter some of the same issues where, you know, a few years down the line, our infrastructure is so old that it's just crumbling. Toby, Scott, anything else? That's kind of the...
We're through talking about water.
Yeah. We even turned out the electricity for about 3 hours Saturday, and so some things could be hooked up and reconnected, and so that went okay. And then the water was off for a couple of hours this morning at 3 of the campuses, junior high, high school, and admin. So all those things have been going off okay, even though they're kind of a nuisance, but it's needed in order to make progress. Eddie, thank you.
Very welcome.
Back to Waco.
Back to Waco.
Okay, well, we appreciate you coming.
All right.
Careful on the roads.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a standing Tuesday morning meeting with Eddie and Mary, and so we will see them again tomorrow morning.
Okay, you want to talk about the board book? Career software?
Yes, Marcy's excited about this one.
Anything for you, Marcy.
Well, I say that kind of tongue in cheek because it's a new software. We think it'll be better. It's up to date. It's an updated version of Board Book. It's called Board Book Premier. And so it's got a few more bells and whistles with it. And poor Marcy, she's been experimenting with it. She's kind of blazing the trail. And anyway, we wanted to let y'all know that here in the next month or so, things may start looking different. And we may at some point need some sort of maybe training. We included some FAQs, some questions, and some different things. A comparison chart between, well, what's the difference between the old one and the new one? And so basically, I don't think we had much choice. Ultimately, you're going to have to go to the new one at some point. Marcy's been calling around trying to ask how painful the transition is. You know, during the middle of a meeting, does everything go haywire and things like that? And but she will be able to do some things kind of on the spot, like taking the votes and who made the motions. I guess as opposed to going back later and typing that all up, she can do it right now. And so, so there are some perks to it. There's some formatting things we've been kind of working with, but Marcy, is there anything else they need to know other than just kind of...
At the end of the slides, there is a little video that y'all can watch. It's y'all's training. Y'all's will look a little different. I actually think it may be easier for y'all. Y'all will have a button you can click if you want to follow the leader, which will be Barrett. So if y'all want y'all's computer to follow where he is, you just click a button. If you don't, you just unclick it and you can click and just do as you want to if you want to look at other additional stuff. But
I don't know that
it's been a little challenging, but I'm running both programs right now. So I have to put everything in one and then I turn around and put it in the other. So we're hoping maybe March or April. I'll go to another training March 2nd. So far it's all just been over the phone training, but we're gonna we get to take a laptop and do a training at TASB, so.
I don't know that y'all necessarily want to follow me. I'm usually bumbling around too, so feel free to, because I'm usually juggling what I'm trying to say and trying to navigate where to go, and so feel free to, you don't have to follow my
It's
lead.
a different look,
yeah,
for sure.
So anyway, that's not an action item, just an FYI that things may look a little bit different, and if you need a little bit of training or help, Marcy can help us through it. It won't be too bad, hopefully not too painful. Did y'all have any questions about that?
We will later.
Yeah, we just don't know.
We have to move by August 31st. And I just told Barrett I would rather do it now while we're, it just gets crazier each month, and I said I'd rather just transition over than all the districts at one time wanting to start going on in June. Whereas right now, there's a few, but I haven't found a whole lot that are live yet. Maybe one or two, and that's about it. But.
Okay. Well, that was, go ahead, Brady.
we're moving to the calendar?
Yes, so that was our last informational item. We just have a couple of action items. So first was it's calendar time of year, and so we met with the DEIC. That's that big group of folks. They came in here, and it's composed of teachers and parents and community people, and we said, we had one in the fall and one in the spring is the big one over the calendar. And so we presented them with a couple of options. Basically what I do is I take notes during the year of stuff that people, the teachers especially, what they might want us to consider. And so some of the things that got traction, especially from a large group, was we don't want to start school with the kids on the first day of the week. We don't want them on a Monday. We want them on a Wednesday or a Thursday. The other thing, ultimately, after we looked at the two options, the DEIC recommended option A. After that, I sent it out to the entire staff, emailed it to them, and said, okay, you guys tell me which one you prefer. And it was 85 to 15, as far as 85% to 15% wanted option A. The only, folks are very vocal about what they want different. And so the only thing, they seem to be very pleased with this, the only thing that's kind of a catching point is when do we get paid? Before spring break or after? So the issue is that before spring break, yeah, you'd have your paycheck for the traveling and things like that. The flip side then is that you go, how many days was it, Shane, that we go from, if we did it before spring break, you'd go a large number of weeks before you got paid again. And so
41 days.
So people were pretty understanding of that. Some things to kind of notice in option A. So again, we'd start school on a Thursday. We'd have an early out for our away game against Llano on the 28th, and our away game on October 9th against Salado. So our away games aren't nearly as long as what they used to be. Still a week for Thanksgiving, 2 weeks for Christmas. The fair is a week later next year. So it's not the week of the 4th, it's the week of the 11th. And so instead of taking the 8th off, we'll take the 15th. Another thing the teachers really liked this year was having that work day right after the Christmas break. They want to ease back into things. They don't want kids the first day. Another thing they really liked about this calendar is they can ease back in after spring break. They've got another work day after that too. You go along there, you have Good Friday, and then graduation is still on the Friday, the 21st, so well before Memorial Day. But the last day with kids is the 20th. So that was good too because they wanted to have their work day at the end of that week as opposed to going past the weekend and doing it on Monday. That's kind of anticlimactic to come back after graduation and have your work day. So, Charles, I didn't get any other input on the 6 weeks. No one else really lobbied for going back to 6 weeks. Usually if there's something that people want, they'll tell me. Charles has brought that up that from a UIL perspective that we might want to consider looking at 6 weeks again as far as just accounting. And I guess the first 3 weeks, 6 weeks is kind of the big one on the 6-week schedule.
Why did we go from a 6 to a 9?
I would say probably more from an academic standpoint as far as just the grading and things of that
I think
nature.
Grading, because we used to require 12 daily grades and 3 test grades in a 6-week period. That was really hard for teachers to get the grades, especially 3 test grades. Daily grades weren't so much, but the 3 test grades was really hard in a 6 weeks period.
Why do you require 12 then? To me, like you had 6 weeks, 6 or 8 grades, 10 max, a 6 weeks period.
I think on a parent standpoint, though, they would like to see.
Most of y'all wasn't around long enough, but this came out originally back maybe 20 years ago. 9-week grading period. It was a thing to do. And a lot of schools went to it. And then when they got out and then they realized that they couldn't change the grading period for the UIL, most of the schools went back to a 6-week grading period. I'd like to see something in concrete paper that this is the grade this kid made at the end of 6 weeks.
It's only on that
For
first.
UIL.
Yeah, it's only on that first 6 weeks, though.
Well, you're doing 9, but the teachers are giving you progress reports every 3 weeks anyway. And the other thing I like is, kids don't get serious about their grades as far as their average until about a week before they come out.
Even with progress reports?
Even with progress reports, they're not worried about those. They get serious about a week before because they haven't got this paper in, this paper in, this paper in. I can see teachers very easily not having their grades up by 6. Well, if you'll get this in by next week, we'll go ahead and give you a grade and you're passing. I can see that very easily. Because it's just, are you failing or passing? That's what you're being asked. Even though they may not have all their work in. It also gives the kids an extra grade in there to average. To get their averages up if they're down. So, I don't know, I may be the only one, but I think we need to be in alignment with UIL, number one.
Well, of all the little groups I meet with, from superintendent advisory to different campus committees, no one, typically if something is a burr in their saddle, they'll tell me. I mean, that's one thing they have no qualms about. This has not been one of the things that has irritated them or that they find angst with.
Right. It's easier on the teacher.
Yeah.
Are
Because they only have to deal 1 grade
athletics concerned about it?
till the end of the semester.
Ricky, Greg, none of them have ever expressed any concern over the monitoring of it. In fact, we're going to have a coach next year on the boys and girls side dedicated to watching grades, attendance, and discipline of the athletes. And so that's something that we've got going for next year. But yeah, that's been one thing, I can't think of any of the other issues that maybe they brought, other than the payday.
Oh, the calendar looks good.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the calendar. I just have a problem with the grading periods.
Yeah.
I want a 6-week period rather than that.
Well, what I'll do is I'll go back and ask and see, we'll start surveying the teachers in some of these committees and say, hey, what do you think about, that sort of thing. And just see what the pros and cons are. Like you said, we need to weigh out the pros and cons.
But not for this calendar.
When did we go to 9
For
weeks?
this one. I mean, all you're changing would be just
Sorry.
reporting periods.
3rd year maybe with it. I'm not, is that right? Maybe 3rd year?
Came with
I think I said I go
Yes,
back and look at calendars.
Penrod introduced it.
So I go back and look at calendars.
That thing, like I said, 20 years ago, that was the thing. It's what everybody was going to. And then they got into the UIL stuff and grade reporting and et cetera, and they went back 6 weeks.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's the first. It's where UIL comes into play is that only that first grading period. So the first 6 weeks you have to go, but we have to run grades differently. It's still a progress report after the first 6 weeks of school, but teachers actually have to validate their grades like they would on a report card on that first 6 weeks. But after that, then it goes off. Then after, if a kid is failing after that 6-week progress report, but teachers still validate like it's a report card, then it becomes 3 weeks after that. They can regain eligibility back again at the 9-week period, and then it goes off 9 weeks off of there as opposed to 6 weeks.
We used to tell our teachers, now you are saying that they are passing on this date.
Correct.
Right now, not what's next week.
Correct. They have to validate just like they would on a report card. They have to sign off on grades on that first 6 weeks just like they would on a report card. Even though it's a progress report grade, they still have to sign off like it's a report card.
But I still would like to have something, a grade recorded, rather than signing off, handing it to a coach, basically what's happening.
So the coaches are getting grades?
Yeah,
For
they have
that
to go
6th
around
grade.
it
For
into
that
each
6th
3
grade.
weeks.
So
and-
like
grade is on.
yeah, so like at high school, I'm coming from high school, so at that 6 weeks, Robin Brazil does all the grade validations. And so you have to go sign off every 9 weeks or every 6 weeks of, if we're on a 6 weeks grading period or a 9 week grading period, teachers have to go sign off on all their grades. And so we run it the same way on that first it's just that first 6 weeks of school is where this comes into play.
I have not heard of any like snafus with like, oh, that kid fell through the crack and they were actually failing. Have y'all heard? I've not heard of any of that.
I haven't had any, anybody that's had any issues with it. The coaches, I think more than anything, the coaches have to really stay on top of it more than at that 6 weeks progress report time on the first 6 weeks than they normally would. Because like what Charles was saying, sometimes they may not, maybe their kids aren't thinking about it so much, but the coaches have to really hammer it. So it probably puts more angst on them than it does anybody else.
I know they do a good job of every year alerting. We see all these emails go out. I know they talk to the kids about it too. So anyway, other than that, as far as changes to this calendar over the last one, I guess the only other pro would be that the first reporting period is more days than what it used to be. Used to that first quarter was only 37 days, and people said that's kind of lopsided. It's not long enough, and so by starting a couple days earlier, it's more even. But number of student days, number of teacher days, it's all the same as last year.
I have a question. I'm kind of out of the loop since they've gone to minutes rather than days. Are we required to have school on so many days?
No, because it's off the minutes. And so if you've allotted enough minutes, that's what it looks at.
What about teacher in-service days?
The teacher still has 187.
State required so many in-service days?
Well, the teachers still have the 187, and we still have the same number of in-service days we've had for years.
Well, my question, I guess I can get it around to, is why don't we cut out some of these days and get out a week or two early at the end of the year?
Yeah.
Well,
I'd have to.
I know unless they change the testing calendar, we're about as late, as early as it can be.
You are right there. You're testing at last, next to the last
before,
week,
yeah.
what you're doing.
Well, some of our kids, some of our campuses may, they may meet the not the minimum requirement, but let's say if we had a bad weather day, you got to subtract those minutes off your year. So right now we don't have to make those up because we have enough minutes built in our calendar.
Still have one bad weather day?
We have enough, I think, cushion that can cover probably 2 or more, but it's one of those things where we don't want to cut it too close.
Not changing this one, but looks to me like if it's too crowded at the end, why don't you move back to start? I mean, why go any more days than you have to go? Let's get it over with.
But you need a break sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I understand.
A few days.
Parents' perspective, I really like it.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Those breaks come and get like that October, those 2 days there, and these 2 days we're having in February too. Those are sure a godsend because you're so.
As far as I'm concerned, you take spring break out of there and.
Charles, you would not be a popular man.
You might have to go hide.
That'll be the cutting story of Gatesville Messenger. Alderson Nix's spring break.
South Texas businessmen. Reason why you had to move it back to the middle of August.
Yeah. So, if I recommend this calendar then, as the 2020-2021 calendar, can we go ahead and vote on it tonight? Do you have any other questions or anything?
Look into if anybody's
And then-
interested in the 6 weeks.
Yes,
for
I
next
don't
year.
mind
Or
exploring
you're-
all that and talking with them about it,
The
but.
calendar is fine. I just wish we'd look at 6 weeks, but that's my 2 cents.
Okay, so you're recommending.
That's my recommendation,
calendar
to
A?
approve this option A as
Option
the
A.
proposed calendar. B is in there just as a reference, but that is basically identical to this year, which is a good calendar, but we feel like this A is even a little bit better.
Is there a motion for option A? Cheyenne, second? I'll second. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. None opposed, motion carries.
Okay.
You got a calendar.
Second to last thing here, the RFQ for the testing. So last month, we came to you and wanted to do the request for quotes to get some bids on the materials testing. That's where they test the concrete and the piers and beams and different things of a construction project. And so We submitted that, and 3 companies submitted. And we've got the little matrix there included. A couple of firms out of the DFW area, and then Langerman Foster. Langerman's based out of Waco, and they have done work for us in the past. They've got a good reputation. They work well with Masonic, and they were also flexible in the cost. You know, they came in at one point at like 133, and I called up Scott Langerman and said, that's too high. And he said, well, what about 104? I said, that's better. And so, anyway, they were just very flexible, very easy to work with, and so on the matrix they scored higher than the other 2.
Call them again.
Yeah.
Keep calling them.
You know, again, that's one of those things where, you know, with all these phases, we always haggle with people. You know, it's just like building your own home. We do try to look out for the school and the taxpayer, so we don't just blindly accept offers, especially when the bids are high. And so, but again, they were very flexible and wanted to get our business, and so again, they had a good track record, good references. They work well with Masonic, and so my recommendation is to award Langerman Foster the contract for materials testing for the big high school renovation project.
Is there a motion for that recommendation? Anybody?
I'll make a motion.
Charlie, second David. Any more questions? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. None opposed. Motion carries.
Last one is asbestos.
Just like Eddie was talking about staying on schedule, asbestos abatement is scheduled for the Monday after spring break. So that gives us from now till then to get teachers moved out of the courtyard area, the 1957 area, and put them into the portables. And so that's when the migration is going to begin. But also we have to have a pre-service meeting for whoever gets awarded the contract, because now we have to figure out the student pathways, because they're taking that chunk out of the middle. And so what's going to be blocked off, which ways our students going to have to travel to get to the different parts of the campus. And so after this recommendation goes through, hopefully, then we'll have that meeting and we'll start that planning process, and then we'll start the big migration. And so that's another headache time for us to, you know, there's feelings are on edge and teachers are getting moved out, and when is it going to happen? We know the order, we just don't know when. And so this is helping us get that win down of knowing the dates for that big migration period. We had several companies that applied for it, put in an RFP. We graded them, and you can see the matrix where arc abatement came out high, but there was 2 companies that, you know, we've done work with in the past. So we thought we'll take that piece out, level the playing field, so to speak, from everybody, and arc abatement still came out the highest. And so that's why the recommendation is to award arc abatement the contract for the spring asbestos abatement for the high school for the terms and conditions of the RFP. Is there any questions about that?
Before?
What's that?
Or did they work for us before?
Arc abatement, they did the project that's going on right now, the hallway that we did and the mechanical rooms. And then they got called in for, we found some in the library that we were unexpected. They came in over the weekend and took care of that for us.
Okay, but prior to this project, we've never worked with
They did the
Yes.
junior high. We turned the junior high into a library.
Junior high, okay.
They did the abatement in that old gym for us.
That's another company they're usually cheaper. And what we liked about them too is that they were quick. You know, if you call them up, they'll actually come and do it quickly. So.
We gave them a window. We needed this done over the weekend, and they made it happen for us. And that was just a few days just to get the quote in and say, hey, this is what we found, this is what we need.
Okay, so you're recommending to award arc abatement?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a motion for that? David, second, Rob? Any more questions? Okay, everybody in favor, raise your hand. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, we're ready to go into executive. It is, what do you have, 7:49, Marcy? Yes, ma'am.